Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bird Notice. Billy here. Leading off, Kyle Gibson signs a minor league contract with the Tampa Bay Rays. CNL Perez clears waivers and accepts assignment to Norfolk. And John Heyman reported that the Orioles approached Gunnar Henderson about a contract extension. But Ryan, what episode number is this?
This is episode 80, which had been worn until this weekend by just one Oriole in team history. That was right-handed pitcher Spencer Watkins, who signed with the Orioles in 2021 after being released by the Tigers, who had drafted him in the 30th round in 2014. Watkins made his major league debut in 2021, throwing 54 and two-thirds innings with an 8.07 ERA and 1.70 WHIP. The next season, he made 20 starts for the O's with better results, going 5-6 with a 4.70 ERA and 1.42 WHIP. In 2023, Watkins went briefly to Houston before being claimed off waivers by Oakland, and he pitched just over 4 innings for them in the majors. He signed with the Nationals and spent last season in Rochester, and is currently pitching for the TSG Hawks of the Chinese Professional Baseball League. And of course, now the O's have a second number 80, after I wrote this up, and that is Jordan Adams. I have nothing on him.
I've seen him play with Norfolk a good bit this season. He has Yusniel Diaz disease, where you can see the athleticism that made him a 17th overall pick by the Angels, I think in 2018 it was, but there's just nothing beyond the eyes. There's a lot of empty calories to his game, but
nothing under the hood.
Yeah, I would prefer him on the roster over Kjerstad currently, to be honest, but that's not saying much. And I do enjoy watching him play for the Tides, but yeah, I think he's peaked as a AAA player. He's only 25 though, which is interesting.
It looks like he steals bases. Does he do much other than that?
He runs really well. He plays good defense, but
doesn't hit.
Yeah, he doesn't really. At least in Norfolk this season, he doesn't hit. Maybe. I mean, there's a reason why he's got a minor league contract, from a team this season.
That reminds me of that guy, Billy Hamilton. Remember him, who was like so fast and so good at stealing bases, but he was just so bad at everything else that he only stuck in the majors for a couple of years, even though he stole like 70 bases.
Yeah, he was good for teams like approaching the postseason.
Yeah, right. Once they could, like you've said about Mateo, once they could just throw him in on base.
He's funny in center field. Well, he collided with Kjerstad in yesterday's game, but I think that's because Kjerstad was surprised to see Mateo run up on him that fast. It was like, oh shit, how'd you get over here so quick?
Right.
Like his speed is almost too good in center field because he flipped over the wall last week.
Well, he just needs to communicate. Like if he can get to a ball, you got to tell him. That's a center fielder's job.
There is no way they're going to DFA him when some of the guys start returning. Rivera stopped hitting at pretty much the worst time for him.
Yeah. By the way, I just pulled up Billy Hamilton. His first 5 full seasons, he stole 56, 57, 58, 59, and 34 bases. And his OPS plus was never higher than 81 in that time. He literally couldn't do anything besides steal bases.
Yeah, had Hall of Fame speed, but just no way to get on base.
Right. That's impressive too. 56, 57, 58, 59 in 4 years in a row. It's like, remember when Adam Dunn I think he hit exactly 40 homers, 4 years straight?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a random aside that doesn't matter. But
well, speaking of Rochester, they've officially passed the Tides in the standings. So Rochester's in 9th place now, and the Tides are in 10th.
Yeah, that's not saying much for either team.
John Mayberry joined the Orioles coaching staff this week. He immediately became the most experienced guy on the staff. I don't have any real thoughts on this, but the real coaching news I heard this week was from Jim Palmer. Did you see he said Peter Angelos asked him to be the manager 3 times?
No, I didn't. That's interesting. Did he just say that offhand on a broadcast?
I heard it on Mike Bordick's podcast.
Okay.
And then the Glenn Clark radio show had tweeted it out. I guess he mentioned it on their show as well. Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, how is this not front page news? How are we?
Did he expand on like what year? Like, was that 3 separate times or like 3 times in the same season? Or...
I don't remember him expanding on it with the Mike Bordick interview. My assumption was it was 3 separate times. I think Jim Palmer's too smart, though, to do that. I think the Orioles were probably beginning their death spiral when he was approached about this, and he said his response to Peter Angelos was, "I'm undefeated in the broadcast booth."
I was gonna say TV is a pretty good gig, unless you do something egregious like who's it, Tom Brenneman? Like you're gonna keep your job for a while. Or the Red Sox got rid of Don Orsillo for no reason. He's been with the Padres for a long time, and everyone loves him. But
yeah, that's why I think Palmer's almost too smart to do this, because he knows he's got a charmed life in Baltimore. He can really do no wrong. But if you take the manager job and you start losing a shitload of games, people are gonna change the way they feel about you.
right, instead of like, oh hey Jim Palmer, how's it going? They'll be like, oh hey Jim, like, why'd you pinch hit this dude in the 8th inning the other day? That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, nobody has written a bad word about Jim Palmer in 40 years in Baltimore, but you take that manager job, good luck.
Right, that's a
You're
good
just
point.
hired to be fired.
True.
Plus, he would have nuked his broadcast career. Like, say it goes poorly, then he probably can't go back to the Orioles booth. He'd probably have to go, call Rangers games or something.
Maybe. I wonder how many fired managers are color analysts for that team. Can't be too many.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too. It can't be too many, especially in the Orioles case where they own the actual TV part of it.
Right.
Not every team owns their own network.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the Athletic app the other day, and Keith Law was doing a live Q&A, and I was curious about his thoughts on Vance Honeycutt because we talked about him briefly last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked, despite being a 3-year starter in college, Vance Honeycutt is a strikeout machine, 51 and 121 at-bats last time I checked, while in high A. Is this just who he is? Because it's tough to see him making a significant impact at the big league level at this rate. And he replied, I have seen him 3 or 4 times this year, and I don't think he's changed at all since sophomore year, at least. There may be tiny tweaks to his setup, but the results are the same, and frankly, the swing is not different enough to matter.
That kind of tracks with what he was writing when they drafted him, where he kind of said that. It's like, yeah, he strikes out a ton, and if they can fix him, he's good. Like, he's got potential, but doesn't sound like that happened.
No, strikeout rates are alarming. I was talking to my buddy the other day, who I grew up with outside Pittsburgh, and I asked him if he remembered Eric Green, the Steelers tight end, who was a first-round pick out of Liberty in the late 80s. And he was like, yeah. And I said, he has a son, Elijah Green, in the national system. And he's been in A-ball for 2 years now. He struck out same strikeout rate as Honeycutt, basically. He was a 5th overall pick by the Nationals. They yanked him out of Fredericksburg and sent him down to their complex this week. That's how alarmed they are with his strikeouts. Strikeouts are something, it's like poison as a minor league player, as a prospect.
Yeah, unless, I brought up Adam Dunn earlier, unless you're a guy like him who has ridiculous power, yeah, having a high strikeout rate does not often go well.
Nope. Especially at that low level. Like, if your strikeout rates go up as you go up levels, that's a little more understandable. But when you start out in A-ball striking out 50% of the time,
right? Yeah, then it's hard to imagine against like AAA Major League pitching that improving.
Then I have some quick notes on the Tides. This is straight from their game sheet. Westberg and Kauser were there this week. I went last night. Trevor Rogers pitched. It was the first game of the doubleheader. He looked great. Like, not very many balls even got out of the infield, and the ones that did were playable.
Was that his first start since the last game with the O's where he was good?
Yeah, they botched that. I don't know how they didn't even attempt to capitalize on his. I mean, like go to a 6-man rotation just to see if he can do something with that. But
Right. It does seem like kind of a waste if he's pitching well in AAA when, well, I guess this series against the White Sox, I don't know how much you can gather from that, but the starters were good.
yeah, they were good. Yeah, so Saturday night after game one, it had started raining towards the end of the game. It's a 7-inning game. It went into extra innings. And then there's a half hour in between games 1 and 2. They pulled the tarp out in the outfield to get ready to put on the field. And I said, if they pull the tarp out, this is a minimum of an hour and a half in between games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting out of here. And thank God I did. The second game didn't start till 9:05. It was like a 2.5 hour rain delay.
Ouch.
I was really patting myself on the back for that. But yeah, they held Kowser and Westberg out of both games last night. I guess probably because of the weather.
Yeah, that makes sense. Today I
But
saw like 5 seconds of a Wake Forest, Tennessee regional NCAA tournament game, and it was pouring, and the outfielders were just slipping all over the place. I couldn't believe they were even playing. So yeah, I imagine if Kowser goes and like strains his hamstring or something, slipping it on the turf.
yeah, that would have been a disaster. I saw him Thursday. They played a day game. Andrew Painter started for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, which is a cool matchup. It was a cool day. Vespi pitched. Carl Crawford's son, Justin Crawford, played center field for the Iron Pigs. Kowser hit 3 doubles in that game.
Yeah, were they all off Painter?
Yes, they were all off Painter. He looked pretty good.
Unless I'm mistaken, Painter was like the top pitching prospect a couple years ago, and then had some injury. I don't know if it was Tommy John, and now apparently he's good again, right?
Yeah, he was going to break camp as like a 20-year-old or something. And yeah, I believe it was Tommy John.
Yeah, I remember his name. I guess, good for him for coming back and seemingly getting back to what he was before, because it seems like too often that happens to younger guys and it just kind of ruins them.
Yeah, I could see him helping the Phillies out down the stretch, maybe even out of the bullpen if they don't have room in the rotation for him.
I don't know how the Phillies are doing. I feel like I read recently they were scuffling a bit.
Yeah, I think I caught that too.
They got shelled by the Brewers. What was it, like 17-7 or something yesterday?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to think of. It was Luzardo gave up like 12 runs.
Damn.
He had a Chayce McDermott performance. I'll get into that later.
Well, because you brought up Luzardo and you've brought up my fantasy trade of Rutschman before, like a week ago, I traded Luzardo and Nathan Eovaldi for Juan Soto. And Eovaldi went on the IL today, and apparently Luzardo was the one who got destroyed. So short-term results are good, at least.
Is that a keeper league?
No, but, well, actually, technically yes, but it's only 4, and I wasn't going to keep any of those guys.
You'll keep Soto, though.
It's a salary league, though. So, like, if I keep Soto, I don't get the, like, $65 it costs, so I probably won't.
Was Rutschman expensive? Was that part of the reason for trading him?
No, I overpaid for him, but I wouldn't have kept him anyway, so it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, there's no reason to keep the 18th best catcher in baseball.
It might be lower than that.
Yeah. Kowser raised his career on base percentage with the Tides to 403 from 401. This ranked him 9th in franchise history with a minimum of 500 plate appearances. He passed Timo Perez, former Met.
I remember that name.
I had to look this guy up. Pepe Manguel.
Don't know him.
He played for the Expos, and he was on the 1977 Tidewater Tides.
Timo Perez is a guy, like, I've said this before, like, somebody I would have never thought of if you didn't bring him up. Like, he's exactly in that boat.
Yeah, he helped them to the 99 World Series appearance.
He wasn't that good, but for some reason, maybe it's just because he had a cool name and he was on the Mets when they were like pretty solid. But
yeah, playing for New York can get you a lot more attention than you deserve.
Right.
So Cowser is now first in Orioles affiliate history. That's since 2007. Second place. Do you have a guess who second place OPS is in or on base percentages in Orioles affiliate history? It's pretty good.
I'm gonna need a hint. So you said minimum 500 plate appearances
He's currently on the team. He's currently on the Tides.
on the Tides.
Yes. He was on the Orioles for a day last week and did not appear in a game.
Vavra.
Yep, at 386.
Wow. Okay, well, good for him. He's a solid AAA player, and no more than that.
Yeah, he'll go down as a Tides legend. And Westberg hit his 42nd career Tides double. He passed Chayce Cisco and is now tied with Nolan Reimold for 16th all-time in Orioles affiliate history.
Let's hope he has a better major league career than Nolan Reimold.
And Chance Cisco.
Yeah. It feels like in the dark ages, Reimold was that guy who everybody thought was going to be good and break out every year. And finally, after like 5 seasons, everyone realized that was never happening.
Yeah, it's funny to me how long people hang on to some quote-unquote prospects.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they keep lowering the bar until they can say, hey, I'm right. It's like, no, man.
Right.
You should have pulled the chute a year ago.
Uh-huh.
This is the last one. The Tides have made 144 transactions this season and are on pace for 397. That would shatter the franchise record of 314 set in 2022.
Well, I mean, that's really what AAA teams are for, is feeding the major league team and doing what they want. Unfortunately, for the AAA team, that kind of sucks, but...
Yeah, it says a lot about the state of the big league team when you're just constantly churning out over your AAA roster.
Mm-hmm. Like Jordan Adams.
Yeah, Jordan Adams will get DFA'd this week.
Really? That guy's coming up? Like, what went wrong this season?
Yeah, he was like the 7th outfielder, probably more than that. Like at the start of the season, or organizationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have Mullins, Cowser, Kerstad. I guess if you can count O'Hearn and Mateo, each is like a half. Could be one. O'Neill. Forgot about him. Carlson.
Yeah, you could say Fabian and Beavers also. The only reason why they didn't get called up because they didn't want to add them to the 40-man. Because once they're there, they're stuck. They're just going to DFA Adams. They're not worried about putting him in
at the start of the season.
See? Yeah, great point.
Yeah, you're right.
He's probably like the 10th guy. And another guy we could have added to this list is Cooper Hummel. He cleared waivers, refused his assignment to Norfolk, elected free agency, but then signed a deal to remain with the big league club. And I don't know if you saw him. He played very briefly in the outfield the other night. He does not look like he belongs anywhere on the field. He looks like Danny DeVito.
How does that work? So he wouldn't go down to Norfolk, but got a new deal to stay in Baltimore? What does that mean?
I had this question as well. So he signed a major league contract the first time. So does that mean he now got 2 major league contracts? So are the Orioles paying him twice?
There's no way they would do that. But I don't know the answer.
Because when he signed the first time, it was reported he was like 2 hours away from agreeing to a minor league deal with somebody when the Orioles scooped in. And then they had to DFA him because Adley got hit in the head, causing Trump to be added to the roster.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My only uneducated guess would be that maybe they signed him to a cheaper minor league deal or major league deal. Like, hey, we found out you kind of suck, so instead of like $775, how about we'll give you $650 or something? And he was probably like, yeah, it's better than nothing.
Under the table.
Right.
But it was like a blind date the first time. Then they saw him. They're like, oh, no.
Yeah, like you're actually kind of ugly. So we got to lower our standards.
I keep seeing people say he can play catcher. If he has to play catcher, that seems like a fail somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I mean Hanley's bad enough. And Trump, I saw Trump's name at the Brave Stadium this week as they have a wall of all the international Braves who've played for them. I think he's from Aruba or something.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if he clears waivers. Catchers are kind of tough because it's hard to get good minor league catching depth. That's why the Orioles are constantly claiming guys just for catchers you never heard of, or adding them to the 26 man for like a day until they can DFA them. Oh, do you see Corbin Burns today? Might have blew out.
Yeah, I I mean it sucks for him. I say this not sarcastically, but one of my first thoughts was like it's cool for him that if it is serious, he can rehab and be at home, but also be there with the team at the same time. So I guess good for him.
He won life because if that would have happened last year, it would have been an epic disaster for him.
Yeah, true. After he got his deal.
Yeah. So if it's gonna happen, I mean, if there's ever a good time, it might be the best time for it to happen to
Yeah,
him.
put your 200 million in the bank and go do a bunch of rehab.
I felt bad watching it though. I have my Fubo DVR just scheduled to pick up all the Nats games and record them, so I went and watched that inning, and you could see after you know what happened, you could see it. If you're just watching the game, you didn't notice. But there was one time before a pitch where he like straightened his arm out, and I was like, "There it was.
Hmm.
There's that Kyle Bradish wiggle."
Right, and Batista did the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's scheduled for an MRI tomorrow. We'll cross our fingers.
Yeah, that's not good.
And then yeah, it's you ready for game recaps?
Let's do some games.
This was Monday, May 26th. This was Memorial Day. Memorial Day was way too early this year. They should have just made it June 1st.
It was weirdly early. I agree.
Nobody was prepared for this. I don't even think our HOA pools opened yet. They were like, you guys got to wait another week. We weren't ready.
Oh, that's lame. Especially in Virginia, I feel like it's been warm enough for a while. I hate
I,
arbitrary dates like that for pools. Like in Dallas, the public pools open for only a short time because of like most of the lifeguards are like college students, maybe high school. I don't even know. But it's like it's hot for like a month on either end of when the pools are open, but they just can't staff them. So it's like, what's the point?
you should just swim at your own risk.
Right.
But yeah, this Memorial Day, we got Eric Fetty versus Charlie Morton, who had only allowed 2 earned runs in his last 9 1/3, with opponents batting 125 with 2 walks and 12 strikeouts. Charlie Morton is a real deal all of a sudden.
I don't understand, but I'll take it.
We had a missed opportunity in the first for St. Louis. Morton walked Mason Wynn with 1 out. Then Morton made a shitty pickoff attempt that got by Mountcastle. It allowed Wynn to take second base. Brendan Donovan is having like an MVP caliber season for the Cardinals. He's batting 328. He would move Wynn to third on a ground out for the second out of the inning, bringing out Wilson Contreras, who's a 556 hitter in 7 career games at Camden Yards with 4 home runs. That's why I brought up this missed opportunity. But Morton was able to get him to ground out.
Yeah, and then the O's did not miss their opportunity in the first. Jackson Holliday led off the game for them with a single, moved over to third on an error, and Arias reached on a grounder. So they had first and third with no outs, and Gunnar Henderson was able to knock in Holliday with a ground out. So with 1 out, the Orioles were able to put 1 run on the board.
Yeah, Gorman was playing third base because Arenado was injured over the weekend. He fell into the stands trying to catch a foul ball, and he landed on his back. Did you see? It was awkward. He was laying like in the warning track part of foul territory, like shaking.
I did not see that, but that you make it sound like he had a seizure or something.
Yeah, he was like twitching. It looked weird, but he was able to avoid an IL stint. But yeah, it was kind of scary the way he hit his back off the seat.
He's had a weird career arc where like he was so good and then the Rockies traded him for nothing just to get rid of his contract, and then he's just fallen off a cliff the last couple of years.
Yeah, a lot of teams got lucky this year by not trading for him, even though they were interested.
Right, but he was awesome for like the better part of a decade, it seems like.
Carlson singled in the third. He stole second, even though the throw beat him. Hanley lays down a sac bunt, moving Carlson to third. Holiday is up with a runner on third and less than 2 outs. He's brought the runner home in 7 of 9 times he's been in that situation. He came through here with an RBI single. This team's fortunes have started to change by locking him in the leadoff spot. This team is a lot more fun to watch with Manzolino calling some shit. Like with the bunt here with Hanley. Hyde would have never bunted here.
That's the second episode in a row we've talked about a Maverick Handley bunt.
Yeah.
Could be his thing.
He's hitting under 100. Just let him bunt.
Yeah. I mean, if he can do it, it's kind of a lost start. Maybe that's something he's actually good at, because it's not a lot of things.
Yeah, that put him up 2-0 then.
Moving ahead to the bottom of the fourth, the O's stretched their lead even further when O'Hearn led off the inning with a single. Kerstad hit into a fielder's choice, but O'Hearn was able to reach second on an error, so both runners were safe. With 1 out, Dylan Carlson came to the plate and hit a home run, knocking in O'Hearn and Kerstad for a 3-run shot and put the O's up 5-0.
Yeah, Carlson has made the most of his opportunities the last couple of weeks after starting off kind of slow. Pedro Pages, is that how you say that? The Cardinals catcher?
I think so. Is he related to that guy Andy on the Dodgers?
That's a good question. I'm going to say yes.
Like Pages, which is a funny name. They should just call him Pages. I know it's not how you pronounce it in Spanish. But it does not say that he's related on Baseball Reference.
Okay.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah, he hit his 4th home run of the year. This one went around the left field foul pole. This was the 10th home run served up by Morton this season. And that was it. That was our 5-2 final.
Man, Charlie Morton has, it's one of those things where you're just waiting for the magic to end. The stretch he's in right now.
I thought it was going to end when he had that shitty pickoff attempt in like the first inning. I was like, oh, well, this was fun while it lasted.
This was his first win of the year. He was 1-7 after this game with a 7.09 ERA, but he had been pitching really well for a few weeks. Was this his first start after being in the bullpen for a while?
Yes. Yep. I was looking at his numbers quite a bit today, actually, and I noticed that. I think he had 3 relief appearances.
He hadn't pitched in 9 days before this.
Yeah, this was his first quality start. 86 pitches, 4 hits, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. Another incredible post-game interview. Second star I gave to Dylan Carlson. He was 1 for 22 in his first 14 games with the Orioles. His last 3, 5 for 12. And then he had the difference-making home run against his former team here. So this was the Dylan Carlson revenge game. And then I gave the third star to Tony Manzolino for the 3-game winning streak, the longest streak of the season. We got to move goalposts here now in 2025.
They should just call them the Mansolinos. Get it?
This brought us to Tuesday, game 54. We got Sugano versus Andre Palante, and for the record, Palante was a 4th rounder in 2019.
You're going to become an expert on the 4th round of the draft from 2019.
I really believe, after my research, that that's where the cliff is. Like, if you don't take a pitcher in the first 4 rounds, you're rolling the dice anyway, but now you're rolling, like, shittier dice with less numbers on them after the 5th round.
I'm sure there's been research.
That'd be funny if they hired me to look into, like, pitching drafts.
They got a bunch of dorks who do that, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm a dork, but I'm not smart enough to be, like, good at being a dork.
Nah, me neither.
Sugano would serve up 4 singles to the first 5 hitters. Wilson Contreras drove in a run. Sugano threw 32 pitches, but he limited the damage and stranded the bases loaded. In the bottom half of the inning, Andre Palante only threw 7 pitches.
Not a great start. And that would continue in the second for Sugano because he allowed a leadoff single to Jordan Walker. And with one out, Lars Nootbaar hit a 2-run homer, and the Cardinals were up 3-0 after 2.
Yeah, that was Nootbaar's 8th of the season, the 11th allowed by Sugano. Sugano has allowed more home runs than Charlie Morton somehow.
That's shocking. I would not have known that.
If you're a Cardinals fan, are you concerned about Jordan Walker? I know he's still only 22, but he is really underwhelmed in his opportunities.
Is he still that young?
Yeah, I think. He's at least... He can't be older than 23.
Jeez. He just looks old. He's got like an old face or something.
Yeah, he's huge.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where if he's that young and he's been kind of crappy, like, why don't they send him down for a bit? It's not like he's really helping the team a lot with the numbers he's been putting up.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of for that is maybe they've been like, well, we already tried sending him down a couple times. It hasn't worked. So at this point, it's sink or swim.
Yeah. Yeah, I am far from an expert on the Cardinals. So
maybe we can trade Kjerstad for him.
I would do that.
Kjerstad's too old, though. Yeah.
True.
If Walker were a little bit older, then you could be like, will you take our headache and we'll take yours?
Right.
But yeah, Mountcastle led off the fourth with a double down the first baseline. O'Hearn would walk. Carlson reached on an error, so it's bases loaded, no outs for the bottom of the order. And it's sad trombone time. Mateo struck out swinging. Mountcastle scored on a fielder's choice by Kjerstad, and Chadwick Tromp flew out to strand runners at the corners. So it's 3-1 Cardinals.
Bottom of the fifth, though, the O's would not do the same. With one out, Arias singled, moved over to second on a wild pitch, and Henderson walked. Then a balk moved those runners to second and third. Mountcastle struck out, which was not surprising. However, that brought up the good Ryan, that is O'Hearn, and he hit a 3-run homer to give the O's a 4-3 lead.
Yeah, to center field. Keegan Egan would start the seventh. He faced 3 batters and failed to record an out. He walked the 9th hitter, which is something the Orioles do a lot this season. Nootbaar and Mason Wynn would each single, and there goes the Orioles' lead. We got a tie game at 4.
The tie continued to the top of the 8th with Brian Baker on the mound. Struck out the leadoff batter, but then gave up a home run to Nolan Arenado, whose back injury was apparently not that bad. And then the other Nolan hit a triple, Nolan Gorman. So with one out, the Cardinals had 1 run and a runner on third. Jordan Walker then tripled himself. So now the O's have allowed 2 runs, finally got the second out with a strikeout, but then Baker walked somebody and was mercifully removed from the game.
Yeah, this was a depressing inning. The 2 triples were they would have been tough plays, but they were catchable balls, and it was Kjerstad and Mateo in the outfield. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Actually play outfielders out there?
What is Kjerstad if not an outfielder? A DH?
Yeah, I don't
bad
know.
DH?
I thought for sure he would hit enough to make his defense worth it, and they can't hide him anywhere. He's virtually unplayable right now.
He's like O'Hearn if O'Hearn couldn't hit.
I thought his floor would be previous years of O'Hearn, like definitely last year's O'Hearn. But now that O'Hearn's Tony Gwynn, you can't even say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this loss was depressing because you wanted to see them build off of that Charlie Morton start from the day before. The Cardinals were a good test for them too. But yeah, I only gave 1 star to Yaramil Hiraldo for making his major league debut. He allowed a base hit to the first batter he faced, which was Mason Wynn. An inherited runner came in to score, but he retired 4 of the next 5. He struck out 1, and he was promptly optioned back to Norfolk the next day, so Matt Bowman could return.
I don't know, like, Is that worth sending that guy down for Matt Bowman?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand either. And
Like, why
now, if
not?
you
Why
want to
not give
get,
him a shot and see if he's better than Matt Bowman? Because we know what Bowman is, and it's pretty not good.
yeah, I agree. Bowman was pretty good in his Tides appearances, but he should be like, you know what I mean? That if he's not good in Norfolk, then you got a real problem on your hands. Um, yeah, give Hiraldo like 2 or 3 more appearances to see what he can do. Because now, if you want Bowman off the roster, you're gonna have to DFA him again.
Yeah, well, which I mean I'm fine with, but should his nickname be Hiraldo Rivera? I know they're not spelled the same.
I was gonna put that as maybe that'll be the episode title: Yaramil Hiraldo Rivera.
I think he's kind of a crazy person nowadays. So
I think he went so crazy though. Like the crazy has gone so far that like he's almost normal now.
how so?
Like that's where we are as a country now. Like the
Uh,
the previous
oh,
generation's
you mean
crazy people.
the overall crazy has gone that far? Where
Right. So
Hiraldo
now
Rivera
like
is.
the crazy people of like the 2010s are like,
Oh yeah,
hey, this shit's crazy.
no, you're right. Like the Tea Party is like nothing nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing Michael Moore be like, they used to think I was crazy. He's like, now I'm a moderate.
Right.
Every Cardinal starter except the ninth hitter had at least one hit. Every Orioles starter except Urias struck out at least once. The Cardinals' top hitters, Nootbaar and Mason Wynn, went a combined 5 for 9, 2 runs, 1 home run, 4 RBI, and a walk. So they basically, just controlled the game for the Cardinals. The Cardinals' bullpen, 3 pitchers went 3 1/3. They got the win, a hold, and a save. 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, 44 pitches, 34 strikes, and the Cardinals were 5 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The Orioles were 1 for 14.
That'll do it.
Wednesday, Miles Michaelis. Is that how you say his name?
Nicholas?
Michaelis. It's spelled Michaelis.
I don't know. Does it rhyme with Nicholas or let's see? Baseball Reference says Michaelis. You're right.
Okay. Miles Michaelis versus Cade Povich. This game was delayed 30 minutes. It rained throughout it. Adley and Mullins returned to the lineup after missing a couple days each, so that was good to see. They've had some odd injury list placements this year. Like they held Mullins out for 4 games or something like that, and then he ended up going on the injured list anyway. Adley, who they probably should have put on the IL just for the fact of giving him 7 days off on the concussion list. Like, I mean, there was nothing to lose there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you can always make an injury designation retroactive to a certain date, but that also means until then you're just a man down on your roster if he's not going to play.
Especially a head injury, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I said last time, let Rutschman reset his brain in more ways than one.
Yeah, because you could do that without embarrassing him either. Like if you send him, like sending him to Norfolk seems really extreme, and I've seen some people call for that. Like Mike Borda called for that, which blew my mind.
Oh,
Yeah, that just seems like such a last case scenario, and this was a perfect opportunity to give him a mini break. You could even put him on a rehab assignment for a couple of days there too. He wouldn't even know. He just think,
he was concussed. He doesn't know what's going on, anyways.
yeah. O'Hearn and Urias would start the second with singles. O'Hearn's hitting streak is up to 8 games at this point. Urias had an 11-game hitting streak. I didn't know that.
Mm-mm.
He's so sneaky good. Mullins would lay down a bunt. Another master stroke by Manzolino here, calling for the bunts. He's bunted more in 2 weeks than I think Hyde did the previous 2 years.
It seems that way for sure.
O'Hearn would take home on a throwing error. Hanley scored on a Urias ground out, while Holiday scored on Mullins' RBI double. 3 runs on 4 hits and an error.
Mullins scored on Holiday's RBI double.
Okay. Yeah, the intern fucked me up again.
I don't want to take any credit from Holiday because he's been really good lately.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's
Playing like
as
the top
advertised.
prospect.
Yeah.
Just took him a year.
Did we talk about how Manzolino told him he was going to play him? Did we
We,
mention that?
I don't think we have, but I think that means a lot.
So, like, Brandon Hyde, what the fuck were you doing? Why? If that was a manager call and not from the front office, like, hey, start him slowly. Like, they didn't do that with Gunner. That and Gunner was a second round pick. Um, not that that matters, but like, why did you take the kid gloves off for him but leave him on holiday?
Right. I don't know. But it appears to be working, whatever Tony's doing. Top of the fourth, Cardinals would get on the board. A couple of singles to start the inning before a strikeout and a walk and a flyout. But then Jordan Walker, in his old face, singled. 2 RBIs, though, and that made it a 3-2 ball game.
Yeah, Povich had 8 strikeouts through 4, but that was pretty much all he had going for him in this start. O's would pick up a run in the 5th with 3 straight singles. It was a run driven in by Dylan Carlson, 4-2 Orioles.
That was the bottom of the fourth. Top of the fifth, Newt Barr led off for the Cardinals with a double, moved to third on a wild pitch. He would then score on a Mason Wynn double, but Mason Wynn scored himself on a Brendan Donovan home run, and the Cardinals were then ahead 5-4.
Yeah, they didn't look back after that. They tackle on one more off of Andrew Kittredge that was inherited by Matt Bowman. Kittredge got out of a bases loaded jam in the 7th. The Cardinals have won 7 of 8 series this season. They're 18-5 since May 4th. Baltimore is 5-13 against the National League. Adley and Gunner were especially bad in this game. 0 for 10, 4 strikeouts. The Cardinals' top 3 hitters were 9 for 15, 6 runs scored, 2 doubles, 1 home run, and 3 RBI. And then St. Louis's 5 through 8 hitters drew 5 walks and also had 3 hits.
That's just an all-around better game. I mean, neither starting pitcher did great, and the Cardinals bullpen was better as well.
I'm glad we're seeing Cade Povich get like unlimited run here because the Orioles have no choice. If they had choices, he might have been demoted by now.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been great, but unless they call up Trevor Rogers, which feels weird to say, I don't know what else you would do there.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it. Cade Povich might be the move when Rogers gets called back up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's probably pretty common, but it just seems watching the Orioles that a lot of their pitchers will have a great start followed by like 3 to 4 bad ones. And then they'll have like a good start and then 2 bad ones. And just there's no consistency there for their younger guys right now.
No, their pitching depth is a real dearth that I don't think people are ready to acknowledge quite yet. I'm going to mention this Chayce McDermott looming disaster I watched today later
Right.
on. For the series, the Cardinals bullpen had held the Orioles scoreless for 11 and a third, and the Orioles were 6 for 40 with runners in scoring position on the series.
Is that good?
For them, it is. And then Thursday was an off day, and the White Sox came to town on May 30th, game 56. We got Jared Schuster versus Zach Eflin. Schuster was an opener for Sean Burke. Burke is a 25-year-old third rounder in 2021 from the University of Maryland, so right in the Orioles' backyard. He's 6'6". And then this game time was moved up 3 hours. That was a smart decision, but that would suck if you're someone like me and you wanted to go to the game out of town or something. Like, hopefully they exchange some tickets. Otherwise, that'd be a real dick move.
Yeah, you're right. Well, this is finally a series where we can say the Orioles should win the series, right? There's 3 teams that have been worse than them all year, and the White Sox are one of them.
Yeah, if they would have lost this series or gotten swept or something, it would have been a certified debacle.
Well, I'm going to give all the credit to Tony Mansolino, even though really it should go to Zach Eflin because he held the White Sox scoreless for the better part of this game.
Yeah, we had a pitcher's duel until the 6th when Adley, Gunnar, and Mountcastle loaded the bases with no outs. Urias would bring in a run with a sac fly. Then things got weird. Ryan Mountcastle stole home. That's fun. I don't think they would have done that under Hyde, but
Especially
Mountcastle
not
got
with Mountcastle.
Mountcastle got injured on the play, so that's not good. Well,
Also not shocking. Like, I looked him up tonight after a tweet by Mike Petrello. I think he's MLB.com, talking about O'Hearn. And Mountcastle gets hurt a lot more than I thought.
mm-hmm.
Like, the last several years, he hasn't played more than like 120 games.
Yeah, I mean, we should do one of those comparison things with him and Austin Hayes. I bet they're more similar than we want to admit.
You can do the rest of the highlights, and I'll pull that up.
Yeah, this one's pretty quick. Felix is in for the save in the 9th. Tauchman and Benintendi hit doubles. Bautista then walked Luis Robert before getting Palacios to strike out swinging to end the game and give the Orioles their 20th victory of the season. Now, this was Joshua Palacios. At first, I thought it was known Orioles killer Richie Palacios. It's hard to track that, to nail that guy down.
He was a Cardinal, right?
Yeah, he was a Cardinal, and I think a Ray, maybe.
Okay.
But, yeah, this was Joshua Palacios, so the Orioles were able to hold on, and then the rain came after the game ended. First star, Eflin, 7 scoreless, quality start, just 4 hits, 1 walk, 18 of 24 first pitch strike. Second star, Mountcastle for stealing home. And then the third star, Gunnar Henderson, for becoming the 6th Oriole in history to reach 400 hits before their 24th birthday. He joined the usual suspects. You want to guess who they were?
I saw the list. I think it was like Cal, Manny, Brooks, Eddie?
And Boog.
Okay. Yeah, almost. I pulled up that Mountcastle Hayes comparison. So Mountcastle's first full season in the majors was 2021. And since then, he has played only 44 more games than Austin Hayes. And Austin Hayes has been worth 2.2 more WAR in that same span. And Hayes has hit him in all the rate stats, and they are tied in OPS plus at 110. So yeah, I think that was a good idea by you, because Mountcastle is Austin Hayes in several ways.
Yeah, that stinks. That
yeah, at first base too. Like if you're a platooning outfielder, that's fine, but if you're the starting first baseman, that's not adequate.
Yeah, like I'm not enamored with Kobe Mayo, but you're almost better off just throwing him out there and see what he can do, because Mountcastle has 2 home runs. Tyler O'Neill has played like 10 games this season. He has 2 home runs. Westberg has 4 home runs. He hasn't played in a month, it seems like. Oh my God. Mateo has 2 home runs, right?
I don't know. Let's look that up. But yeah, I mean, Mountcastle seems like a nice guy, but I'm in the fire him into the sun camp, because I just don't think he's good. Mateo has over. 1 home run. He has half as many homers as the starting first baseman. Mateo's a crappy utility player who is coming off Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, that stinks. I said it before. I would take Mountcastle's glove if the rest of the team were hitting, but the rest of the team isn't hitting the way they're supposed to, so he's like double the liability.
You know what's funny is I actually was like, I was thinking the same thing. Like I was thinking about trading off his defense for offense, and according to Baseball Reference, his defensive WAR is not even good. Like he's been worth negative 0.2 defensive WAR this year. Last year he was only positive 0.2. The previous years he was all negative. So maybe that's one of those things, kind of like Mullins, where the eye test shows he's good, and maybe it's because he's like not getting to every ball that he should, so he makes plays look better than they should. I don't know. And of course, the stats aren't the only thing that matters, but I was surprised by that.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to flip Mountcastle for a Sir Anthony Dominguez type.
No, I don't know what even he would be worth right now. Like, probably another crappy pitcher is what Elias would get for him.
Because 2 home runs, that is obscene. Is he even on one of our dong notice teams? He's not on
I
mine.
think he's on mine, which is embarrassing to say. I should have known better. I'm curious where he ranks in like all of Major League Baseball on home runs now. Like, there's got to be 200 players that have more home runs than him.
There's a pitcher with more home runs than him.
There would be in a regular year or a previous year. Let's see, home runs. Okay, I'm just going to expand the shit out of this menu. Let's see. I don't think I can. All right, I'll click through until I find the rank for 2 home runs.
ESPN might be able to tell me.
We're looking at, all right. So 254 is where the top. So there are, no, sorry. Yeah, there are 253 players in the league with more home runs than 2. That means 3 or more. That's horrific. That's like 8 or 9 guys on every team have more home runs than Ryan Mountcastle.
What happened? Did the wall break him that bad?
I don't know. I think he breaks himself enough. Physically. I don't know about the mentals.
He had 33 in his first full season. It's just the power has
Wasn't that
evaporated.
20? No, that wasn't 2020. That was 2019?
2021. 2020 was his.
21.
Yeah, he played 35 games in the 2020 season.
I was going to surmise. After I said it, I realized it was stupid to think he hit 33 homers in like 60 games. But I was like, oh, he's probably good because there were no fans there. But that wasn't the case anyways. So I was wrong on many accounts there.
Yeah, what a bummer. He was like the original Adley. He was the first guy you were excited about to get called up in the rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, different from Adley. Didn't have the draft pedigree and the hype, but
yeah, but it was like here's the first possible long-term piece to break through, and then it's just he's.
Was it Hyde before he got fired, or was it Mansolino who said that they were talking with Mountcastle about his mental approach and just like remember that you're good. Go up there. You're the man. Like, it just sounded very much like how you would talk to a 12-year-old, but maybe
he has to go look in the mirror before every at bat and be like, "You're good. You can do this.
Right.
People like you."
Uh-huh.
Friday was a bowling shirt giveaway. Most were going for $40 to $50 on eBay. I saw one for as much as $100.
Was that $100 sold or just what someone's listing it at?
Yeah, I think listed at.
Are bowling shirts your thing? They're not really mine.
No, not at all.
I do not own a bowling shirt, nor would I care about that promo.
Yeah, I wouldn't care either. Bird's Eye View had a very funny tweet where it was Jeff Arnold and Jim Palmer together in the booth with their bowling shirts on. And he was like, "This is about as serious as I could take the Orioles right now." Let me see if I can find it.
You know, I was looking at those hockey jerseys the other day, and I think they're just like sublimated. Like they just like the you know what I mean? How the logo is like part of the fabric. It's not like a sewn on like patch. And then I saw the other day the Blue Jays gave away a hockey jersey for the second year in a row, and those are nice. And of course, it's in Canada, so it's different. But they're like sewn on, and it just looks like way higher quality.
Oh yeah, those Blue Jay ones were nice.
Yeah, they're cool. Even though I would never wear a Blue Jays jersey, they're pretty sweet.
Yeah, they said booth vibes match the team's play on the field, not to be taken seriously. That's a picture of George and Jim in their silly bowling shirts. So this brought us to Saturday. The White Sox were 12-2 when scoring at least 5 runs. They didn't do that. Game 57, White Sox versus Orioles, May 31st, the real Memorial Day. Mountcastle and Mullins were placed on the injured list for the game. And part of me wonders if Elias is happy with these injuries, because the more injuries he can show to ownership at the end of the year.
He can blame.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, tell the trainers to like do something to get them all hurt. Of course, that's never going to happen. But
I don't know. There's some sports scandals out there that yeah, Adams was added to the roster for his defense. My guess is they saw Cooper Hummel out there Friday night running around. They were like, we can't do this. Could you imagine an outfield of Hummel, Kerstad, and Mateo?
No. So you're saying Jordan Adams doesn't look like Danny DeVito?
No. Jordan Adams looks like he could be a movie star.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
Like Michael Ealy.
I don't know who he is.
He's an actor all the ladies love.
Okay.
But Jackson Holliday got the party started with the leadoff home run. This was his first career leadoff home run. He is 80 home runs behind Ricky Henderson now for the all-time record.
Hey, there's time.
There is time. I put that in there as a joke, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities for him.
Well, I wouldn't go that far comparing him to a Hall of Famer, but I hope that someday that's relevant.
Then in the fourth, after a Gunnar Henderson strikeout, O'Hearn mashed a double to right field. He would score on Kobe Mayo's RBI single to left. Then things got weird here.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for Mayo. Like he finally did something positive and just ended up kind of looking like a goober after that.
Yeah, it was obviously dumb. I really don't know what to say about it. There was a lot of overreaction to it, like in social media and on the field, but at the same time, it really is like a "what are you doing" moment. Like the White Sox were not wrong for going up and being like, "What the fuck are you doing, kid?"
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what he was doing. I could be wrong, but it seemed to me like he was trying to get an interference call on the fielder. He just went way out of his way to do it, and it just looked completely ridiculous. Like if you did that in high school or something, people would be like questioning it. But in the major leagues, yeah, not gonna fly.
And then he gave a little shove to Sosa as he walked off the field. I'm conflicted about this because I've been calling for someone to be a jerk on this team. But I want you to at least be right about what you're doing. You can't be a jerk and a dumbass.
Yeah, of course. That reminds me of this guy who sublet my friend's room in our apartment years ago in college. Like, he was a total nerd, which is fine, but he was also a complete dick. And, like, that's a bad combination because you're just going to get ripped to shreds if that happens.
Yeah.
You can't be wrong about something and also be a dick about it because you're not going to win that argument.
Yeah, eventually no one will bother arguing with you.
Right.
I thought Manzolino did a good job of answering for it after the game. He basically said what you said, where you were looking for an edge there, and yeah, you made yourself look silly, but
you know what? Props to Mayo for trying. He didn't just give up and stand there and let him tag him. I guess that counts for something.
He showed more fight than the Orioles have all season, basically, even though it was dumb. You don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But that did give the Orioles a 2-0 lead. Hopefully he kept the baseball from his first career RBI.
Who knows where it ended up after all that? After the fracas, could have been stuffed in Doug Mankiewicz's back pocket and disappeared.
Oh, yeah, he did that with the 04 ball. What did he end up doing with that? Does he still have it?
I mean, I don't follow the saga, but last I heard, there was no record of where it actually was. He probably has it, but
yeah. Tauchman would double and score on a Benintendi single to cut the lead in half.
However, in the fifth, with one out, Dylan Carlson doubled, and then Jorge Mateo, who we were just talking about, hit his first home run of the season, 2-run shot to make the O's a 4-1 leader.
Yeah, that would clinch the series win. The White Sox scored one off Cano in the seventh. Felix got a second save opportunity for the second day in a row after he threw 29 pitches on Friday night. If I'm Montalino, this is what I'm doing. You're the interim manager. What do you have to lose? Just run Felix into the ground.
I guess. See, I was going to say the opposite. Like, I get your point there, but 29 pitches and then pitching the next day is a lot for a
Yeah,
guy coming back from Tommy John.
he threw an additional 23 pitches here. He walked 2, but he did strike out 3. Jim Palmer was not happy about this call either.
Speaking of Tommy John, what are your thoughts on Bradish and Wells? Like, in theory, if they are able to come back in like August and the O's are still 10 games under 500, do you even bother having them pitch this year?
Yeah, I think I do. The Rangers did that with DeGrom last year. I mean, they can be low pressure starts, maybe 3 or 4 innings, like 5 max. But yeah, I think 3 or 4 starts will make a huge difference because then you can go into your off season on a normal routine, and plus that has to be huge for your confidence. Wells, I don't ever want to see him start again. He's a bullpen guy in my eyes. So yeah, same thing. If you want to give him some like 2 inning outings out of the bullpen in some meaningless September games, and you have the roster spot for him, which I imagine you will. Yeah,
That's
go
fair.
for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to say no, but now that you made those points, it's like, yeah, why not? Go a few innings at a time. I mean, it can't hurt on their scheduled days amongst their rehab.
At least in Norfolk, but I would even prefer for the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to see it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, especially when you're going into the off season and like planning what you're trying to do for 2026.
Yeah, because a lot of people have crowned Kyle Bradish, and we love Kyle Bradish here at Bird Notice, but he really hasn't done shit. Like, he has like 25 good career starts on his belt.
Who's it? Dennis Green. You said if you want to crown their ass, then crown them.
Yeah, people are crowning Kyle Bradish, and even that 2023, when his numbers at the end of the year were great, he wasn't very good until June. His first like 8 starts through May were pretty ho hum if you go back and look at the game logs.
Yeah, he's one of the our favorite terms, small sample size amongst a career.
Yep. I looked into the pitch counts because of Felix in this game. The Orioles threw 161 pitches. The White Sox only threw 117. So the Orioles did not make the White Sox work in this game.
Yeah, that's interesting. They only walked 3 batters more. It's weird.
Austin Slater made an incredible catch sliding into foul territory off of O'Hearn. O'Hearn gave him a hat tip.
Orioles legend.
Grayson Rodriguez is a 3rd star. It was his bobblehead day. This might be the highlight of his season.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually that they gave that away. Like, who wants that at this point?
In the orange uniform. They were going for $30 on eBay at the end of the night.
Hey, Austin Slater, he's only played 15 games, but he has a 132 OPS plus for the White Sox right now. That's surprising. Was not expecting that.
Yeah, that's a good signing by them. Because then if he is pretty good, you can trade him. And, they need professional players to make some starts for them to fill some holes.
Right, he's 32. So you would think he's got some veteran influence, so to speak.
Yeah, because they were so bad last year. I remember watching them play against the Orioles last year. I don't remember what time of year it was, but I was just shocked at how bad they were. I saw Grady Sizemore is actually still on their coaching staff. Remember he took over as interim manager last year?
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of awkward.
2nd star, Dean Kremer, quality start, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 7 hits, 2 walks. He received a standing ovation when he left the mound. That's where we are now in the season. He started the season 1-4 after his first 5 starts. He is now 5-5. And he called out the lack of recent platooning as a reason guys were starting to find their stride. And this was after he went to the mat 2 weeks ago when Brandon Hyde was first fired. What did he say? He said, "We have their backs more than anyone will ever know." And then in this one, he was like, "Hey, things are a little bit better. I'm not gonna lie."
Maybe he's just a guy who's going to back his manager no matter what. I don't know. But it was interesting hearing those quotes.
Yeah, with the managerial change, like I don't even think they knew that they were tuning out Brandon Hyde. They were just going through the motions. They weren't plotting to get him fired or anything like that, but it was just old and stale. The message was old and stale, and they needed a new voice. And it's not that I think Tony Manzolino is some kind of great baseball mind, but it's just a different voice, and they needed it. And I think that's clear to see now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I wonder, now that you say it, I wonder if Hyde just didn't delegate enough. Like there's a bunch of coaches, and if the message is always coming from the same guy, yeah, I can see how that might get old. But if another coach is like, hey, think about this or try to work on that, maybe you'd be more willing to listen if it's not Hyde every single time, you know?
No, that's a good question because I've been speculating that he didn't really get to pick his staff, and if he doesn't trust his staff, and he's, taking on more responsibility than he should, and guys are kind of tired of hearing from him all the time. There's all kinds of ways to look at this, and at the end of the day, the change at manager has been a positive, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know how anybody could dispute it at this point. The O's have been playing better, and individual performances have been better. It's not just winning as well, which of course is what matters in the end.
Yeah, they've gone from unwatchable to watchable.
Right. However, one guy that's becoming more unwatchable by the day is Cano, because he allowed another run in this game. His ERA is 4.74. It's like, as the season goes on and his ERA stays around there, I'm just like getting more and more worried that he's not actually good. And that's one less bullpen piece that you can rely on.
I know, and you'd hate to trade him and see him go back to being old Cano too.
Right.
How long's he under contract for? 2 more years?
Let's see.
What's that called? Pre-ARB?
He's ARB eligible next year.
After this season or after next season?
It says 2026. I don't know if that means after next season or what.
I think that means after this season.
Well, his arbitration hearing won't go so well for him if they even get to that point.
Yeah, maybe that's one benefit of the team sucking this year is they'll get him at a lower ARB rate.
Right.
I gave Jorge Mateo the first star. That's not going to happen too often. He was 1 for 1 run scored, 2 RBI. He is now up to 3 RBI in the season. He had 2 walks, stole 2 bases. He raised his slugging percentage 72 points from 255 to 327.
Any little bit helps.
And this brought us to today, Sunday. I went to the Tides Iron Pigs game this afternoon. Saw Cowser, Jordan Westberg, and I was excited to see Chayce McDermott was making a start. The good news is Cowser went 2 for 4, drove in 2 runs, scored a run, stole a base. The bad news is Chayce McDermott was dog shit, and I don't know how you can pretend like he can contribute to this team at this point. 2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 6 walks, 9 earned runs, 1 strikeout, 1 wild pitch, 1 hit by pitch. Here's where it's really problematic. 63 pitches, 26 strikes. But don't worry, I'm told that as long as he's healthy, it's nothing to worry about. Even though he's approaching 27 and can't crack this last place team's rotation.
Yeah, that's a very bad strike to pitch ratio.
It was uncomfortable. I'll never forget watching Dylan Tate walk 4 batters in a row. a couple years ago in his rehab stint. This had that level of uncomfort. He almost hit another guy. That doesn't show up in the box score.
Well, I don't know. For all we know, I feel like the O's pitchers, the way they've gone this year, next start he could go 6 innings and allow 1 run. You know.
If he does that, I'll tattoo his name on my ass, like that one guy.
Okay, so I saw that picture. Of course, it was like a close up on his cheek, so you weren't looking at his butthole or anything. But he had he had the Trevor Rogers, and then Heston Kjerstad, and also Geno Smith on there. Like, I think this dude just seeks out things to get a tattoo on his ass for.
Yeah, at this point, it's I don't see how it can be a story the next time.
Yeah, it's like you clearly just have some weird thing, or you need excuses. Like, you could just go get an ass tattoo if you want and not do these goofy things online. But
yeah, like the first time is funny with Geno Smith, Heston Kjerstad. You're like, oh, look, it happened again. The third time is like, are you okay?
and the criteria, as we said, was bullshit. He did not throw a shutout. So
no, I was listening back to our episode the other day, and yeah, if the final score was 2-0, that's fine. But it was 2-1. The game wasn't even a shutout, let alone the individual pitching performance.
In order to finish the game, yeah.
Like, he needs to have an asterisk on his ass tattoo.
Right.
An asterisk, ASSTERIK.
Good one.
But yeah, we got Adrian Hauser versus Charlie Morton. Adrian Hauser had 12 scoreless innings since signing with the White Sox on May 20th. I did not know this. He pitched for the Tides last season. He signed with the Orioles on August 31st. He made 3 starts for the Tides. He went 0-2, 24 hits, 17 earned run, and 16 2/3 for a 9.18 ERA.
I remember when they signed him because I remember looking him up, and he's from a random town in Oklahoma that one of our friends is from. And I remember being like, oh, that's weird. And that's the only reason I would have looked him up. Was after the Orioles signed him.
Is Round Rock the Rangers affiliate? Or the Astros?
Yes, I think the Rangers.
He made 8 starts in 9 games with AAA Round Rock before joining the White Sox, where he had a 5.03 ERA. So
Round Walk sounds like a good Chinese restaurant.
That does sound good. Maybe we can get him as a sponsor. But yeah, this game was scoreless until the third. Maverick Hanley almost hit his first career home run. He ended up with a single. This would have been gone in 22 ballparks. Holiday would double. Urias RBI single. Yos would load the bases when Gunnar singled, but all they could do was muster an O'Hearn sac fly as Mayo and Carlson struck out, and that let the White Sox off the hook. But the Orioles were up 2-0.
The White Sox would get on the board in the top of the 6th. Benintendi singled and then advanced on a balk. And with 1 out, Joshua Palacios reached on a fielding error by Jackson Holliday, and that allowed Benintendi to score. So there remained just 1 out with a run scored, but then the Orioles were able to get out of it by a nice grab by Dylan Carlson and an Edgar Caro strikeout.
Yeah, this was Holliday's 4th error of the season. He also botched a cutoff throw from Carlson on that nice catch that probably wouldn't have done anything anyway, but it was still, it reminded me like, oh yeah, he's out of position and he should be at shortstop. Westberg actually played second base for the Tides today. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, okay. Who's their regular shortstop?
Machine plays there. Real Machine. He's pretty good. He's 32 though, so he's just AAA filler. But he homered last night.
Machine is such a cool name.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. Luis Vazquez and Levon Soto. Or I know I've seen those 3 guys.
Soto. I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, he's not doing very good this year for them.
Well, sounds like it's time for them to release him and then sign him and then release him and then sign him again.
The O's would answer in the bottom of the sixth when O'Hearn led off with a 5-pitch walk. That gave Baltimore their 136th straight game with at least one walk. This is the longest such streak in the majors and the second longest in Orioles history.
Really? I'm surprised it's the longest streak in the majors just because they've been kind of shitty for like those 132 games or whatever you said.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, we were just talking about how they don't walk anymore, and here they are with the longest such streak
Hey,
in the
nobody
majors
said we were
currently.
experts, but they are very low in the walk rate this year. Maybe they just are good at spreading them out, one a game.
Carlson would double. He's so solid. If I had to pick who exceeded my expectations from now compared to what I had for them at the beginning of the season, I think Dylan Carlson would be my highest exceeded expectation player on the Orioles this season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Him, maybe O'Hearn, just because how good O'Hearn has been. I was also thinking Holiday, but I did kind of have high hopes for Holiday, hoping he would
Yeah,
bounce back.
yeah, Holiday's a good answer, but he's doing exactly what I expected of him. O'Hearn's a really good answer just because he's playing out of his mind. But Carlson, I didn't even think he'd be in a game for the Orioles by this point, and he's probably their best active outfield defender currently.
Right.
And then that got us to the seventh. Morton would get the first 2 outs of the inning. He's removed after throwing his 100th pitch because, you have to save your 41-year-old pitcher's arm. You don't, I don't know, like just let him get the final out of the inning. Of course, Soto came in and he immediately allowed a home run to Tauchman. I thought Tauchman was better. I looked up his baseball reference page. I didn't realize he went to Korea for a year. He never really played more than 100 games for any of the teams he was on. I think it was because he was on the Yankees and Cubs, so
Right.
he kind of got some exposure.
Well, he went to Bragley, where our scorecard expert correspondent Liz went. So that's our Mike Tauchman connection.
Yeah, yeah. But that was all the damage the White Sox would do in this game.
Yeah, another good outing from Morton. It's the White Sox, but judging by how Morton has done this year, seeing him do what he's done this week against any teams is very impressive.
Yeah, if Morton continues like this, he might be the most fun storyline of the season. He lowered his ERA over 3 runs this month. His ERA on May 4th was 9.76. It's now down to 6.20. He's my number one star. 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, no earned runs. It's seeing his resilience this season. It's not hard to see why he broke out at 32 years old and was a rotation mainstay for another decade after that. It's incredible career, crazy season so far. Like he went from people loathing hearing his name to like, dare I say, a fan favorite.
I don't know about that, but he has certainly been better. I just made me laugh when you said he lowered his ERA by over 3 runs, and it's still 6.2.
Yeah, his 6.2 is like Pedro Martinez's 1 point. What was that? 1.83 or whatever it was.
I don't know. Yeah.
1.97. I can't remember, but yeah, he's 97 Pedro Martinez now.
Man, some of the numbers that Pedro and those guys like Maddox and stuff put up in the steroid era are ridiculous. Looking back on it, like back then it was like, oh, they're really good. Now it's like, oh, they were really, really, really good.
One of the best games to watch on YouTube is they streamed it on the MLB YouTube channel during COVID, and I ended up watching it. Was his near perfect game against the Padres, I think, for the Expos. It's like art. It's crazy. He's smaller then too.
Yeah. Yeah, he just kind of got fatter at the end of his career. He was always pretty skinny.
I gave the number 2 star to Brian Baker for getting the save. This is the second of his career. He had 2 Ks in the ninth. use him in the closer spot every once in a while. Take some pressure off Felix. Felix will probably never duplicate that 2023 again, even if he didn't have the elbow injury. So I he just set an unfair bar for himself, and that 2023 was always going to be a tough act to follow. And Brian Baker's been pretty damn good. Part of me is just curious to see what he could do in the closer role while he's pitching at his best, because I think he has the attitude to do it. I don't know if he has the stuff to do it, but I want to see this. If they're going to stink anyway, I want to see this experiment.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers really haven't been worse than Bautista in any regard. He's kind of outperforming him. Of course, those aren't all high leverage save situations, but yeah, it can't hurt.
Yeah, I'm not saying make him the closer or anything like that, but I'm saying if you use Felix, three times in a week, and one of them's a back to back, and you need a save, I trust him over Soto. That's for sure.
And
Dominguez,
Dominguez.
yeah, we've kind of saw how that went last year.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Kittredge, but I'm still kind of jury still out in my mind on him. But otherwise, I don't think Aiken's really closer material, so Cano hasn't been this year either. Just go down the list. Like, most guys kind of suck. Cross him off, cross him off, cross him off.
I've been a little underwhelmed with Kittredge so far, but it's still small sample size, so to speak.
Right.
The third star I gave to Lou Gehrig. Today was Lou Gehrig Day. All Major League teams wore a number 4 patch on their jerseys. We all know Lou Gehrig as a guy who couldn't play more consecutive games than Cal Ripken Jr.
Yep. That's it.
Tauchman hit a triple, but Kjerstad was fortunate that the ball didn't hit him in the face because he misplayed it once again. The White Sox 6-9 hitters, which has been a trouble spot for the Orioles this season, were 0 for 13 with 6 strikeouts, so Morton held them in check. And Kjerstad hit a triple, and then he immediately was picked off third base. That's where we are with Kjerstad.
Kjerstad literally is the kid in Little League that you put in right field because they can't play anywhere else. It's like he's not hitting, he can't play the outfield. That's what he is at the major league level right now.
I wish you guys could see him play in Norfolk too, because it's a totally different animal. He's an animal in Norfolk. Let me go through some of his numbers with his minor league numbers, because he doesn't even look like a baseball player this season. He's at -1 WAR already.
I mean, after going 1 for 3 today, his average is at 185, and his OPS is 539. That's very bad for a second overall pick.
Yep. In 56 games with the Tides last year, he hit 300 with 14 home runs and 58 RBI.
That's very good.
I know those are old man stats, but still. In 2023, 76 games, 295 at-bats, 88 hits, 19 doubles, 10 home runs, 32 RBI. Even had 27 walks, 298 average, OPS 870.
Maybe he's just a good AAA player.
It's looking like it. That's just Norfolk. That's where I saw him play. His numbers in Bowie are pretty impressive too. 2023, 46 games, 184 at-bats, 11 home runs, only 31 strikeouts, a 310 average, a 960 OPS. So it's just crazy to see him get this extended opportunity and be the worst player on the team.
He might just go down as a Norfolk Tides legend.
Yeah, it's a bummer. If we're playing Survivor this week with the returning players or The Bachelor, I'm not giving Kjerstad a rose. He's the guy. He's the one who has to go, right?
Right now?
I'd keep Mateo over him at this point.
Yeah. I was gonna say handily, but if we're talking like actual real roster decisions, you do need another catcher. So yeah. Well, there's still time to prove us wrong. We're on the record now saying he stinks, so he could prove us wrong.
He'll prove us wrong with the Pirates or somebody. You got a player of the week?
I have to go with Charlie Morton. His two starts this week, he pitched 12 and two-thirds innings, allowed 2 earned runs, 3 runs total, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts. Just a phenomenal turnaround.
I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to say Colton Cowser. It was a lot of fun seeing him back in Norfolk. He was my favorite player to watch in 2023. I'm too old to be calling people my favorite player, but he was he was very fun that year, and it was fun seeing him back in a Tides uniform while wearing an Orioles helmet. 3 games this week with the Tides. He went 6 for 13, 4 doubles, 3 RBI, 10 total bases. I'll be shocked if he's not in the starting lineup on Tuesday.
Looking at the numbers too, I mean, you could also make an argument for O'Hearn, player of the week, Holiday, but O'Hearn has a better OBP and OPS. He's just been consistently good, and that was the tweet I was talking about earlier where Mike Petrello was kind of joking, saying that of all the potential playoff teams right now, the one that could really use a first base DH type is Kansas City.
I wonder if he'd be happy to go back there. Like, would he have some PTSD and just turn back into a 219 hitter? Or
I don't know. He does seem to enjoy whatever it is in Baltimore for sure.
I don't see how they can not bring him back next season and expect to win. I said that last week, and I know he's a 32-year-old or whatever on expiring contract, but he's like the only man on the team.
Him and Mullins, Morton, maybe.
Yeah, Morton. I bring back Mullins too next year.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before. You can't just have a team full of young guys, and it never works out ever.
Mm-mm.
But thinking to the first base situation next year, I don't really know what their options are outside of keeping Mountcastle, which we both agree kind of sucks. You could play Mayo there, which is a complete wild card. You have to assume he'll learn how to hit, or bring back O'Hearn. Of course, there's other free agents and trades and things, but without speculating on that, like those are really the 3 reasonable options right now, I think.
Yeah, I would go O'Hearn and Mayo at first base, but this is why I think you have to bring Mullins back. You really think a team in 2026 who is going to have to kind of start over, so to speak, like you're going to have an all-new coaching staff, you're going to have to build some chemistry. You're already going to be starting from behind. So, like, you really want, like, Bradfield in center field, Mayo starting at first base. Your outfield would be Cowser, Bradfield, and Tyler O'Neill.
No, that's not very good.
No, I want to see a team contend. I don't want to watch another fucking rebuild. I don't.
And like you can count on O'Neill getting hurt. Cowser probably doing the same. Bradfield might hit 220 for all we know. Like
he's been banged up this year too.
Yeah, maybe they'll all run into each other like a one fly ball where they just mash each other and all go down simultaneously
and just turn to dust. And then the real outfield will be like Jordan Adams, Dylan Carlson, and Kjerstad.
Another terrible option.
Dong notice. We don't have a stolen mailbag this week, and it's the first of the month.
How's Dong notice going?
I saw you're up 85-80. I got 5 from Otani this week, and then 1 apiece from Vlad Jr., Holiday, Juan Soto, and Ramirez. I should be getting Westberg back soon. O'Neill probably, hopefully 2 weeks away. And then Kjerstad is just a write-off for the year.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it lately.
He was batting 8th. Like, Kjerstad is now batting behind Mateo in the lineup.
Right. Yeah, I got no homers from any of my Orioles this week. That's kind of hilarious. Three from Judge.
A team that has like made their whole identity as a home run hitting team.
Right. Well, now Mountcastle and Cowser are hurt. Rutschmill never hit another homer. Gunner's my only hope. Oh well, we'll see.
I don't know what to say about Rutschman anymore.
No, I think
Like I'm legitimately scared.
we've said all we could say. I think.
Yeah. So we'll take a quiz Torres. This is titled "Same Alma Mater: Hoops and Baseball." Can you pick the NCAA school by famous alumni in basketball and baseball? There's
Ooh,
25 questions. It's just going to give us a combo of players, and then I have the 25 schools listed.
I'm generally
So,
pretty good at knowing where guys played in college for at least basketball. I don't know about baseball.
it should get easier for us after we knock a couple out, and we could skip also, and then it'll bring us back to it.
All right.
There's 7 minutes on the clock, so this is more time than usual.
Okay.
Nick Van Exel and Sandy Koufax.
Oh, right away. I don't know. UCLA.
Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a big Nick Van Exel head. Larry Bird and Tommy John.
Indiana State.
Yep. Kevin McHale and Dave Winfield.
Minnesota.
That was my guess too. John Starks and Robin Ventura.
Oklahoma State.
Yep, that's on here. Yeah, Ventura was a huge deal in college. Isaiah Thomas and Kyle Schwarber.
Indiana.
I know this one. Yep, Hoosiers. Grant Hill and Stroman.
Duke.
Harold Miner and Randy Johnson.
Don't know anything about Harold Miner. Randy Johnson. USC.
USC. Yeah, Harold Miner was dubbed Baby Jordan in college.
Oh, jeez.
He was his claim to fame was he would wipe his shoes before like an impound pass.
Now he's just baby. No Jordan.
Steve Kerr and Kenny Lofton.
Arizona.
It-
Kenny Lofton played basketball too.
Yeah. Yep, Arizona's correct. Arizona State's also an option.
That'll be like
Jason
Barry
Kidd.
Bonds and somebody.
Oh yeah. I just watched a thing on him.
Jason Kidd played at Cal Berkeley.
Yeah, the other one was Simeon. Kevin Durant and Roger Clemens.
UT. Texas.
Steve Nash and Randy Wynn.
Santa Clara.
Yep, that's on here. Clay Thompson and John Olerud.
That might be US. No, Washington State.
Yep, that's on here. Michael Jordan and Zach Gallen.
UNC.
We got 5 minutes left and we're halfway done. Julius Irving and Jeff Reardon.
Where did Dr. J go? Did he play at UMass? Yeah.
Yep, UMass. Penny Hardaway and Tim McCarver. Memphis. Jerry West and Jed Gorko.
West Virginia.
Yep. Kenny Anderson and Nomar Garcia Parra. Hakeem Olajuwon and Doug Drabeck.
Houston.
That's it for our Texas options. Adrian Dantley and Carl Yastrzemski.
I do not know this one.
I think it's under Dame. Let's skip it. Juwan Howard and Jim Abbott. That's Michigan. Shaq and Alex Bregman.
LSU.
Xavier McDaniel and Joe Carter.
Don't know that one.
I don't either. The only ones left are Arizona State, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Wichita State. Brooke Lopez and Mike Mussina. That's Stanford. James Harden and Barry Bonds.
That's Arizona State.
Magic Johnson and Steve Garvey.
Michigan State.
What did I just see Steve Garvey on?
He's running for some, or he was, in California.
I'll get to this in media corner. Yeah, we said Michigan State. Adrian Dantley and Yastrzemski. It's Notre Dame or Wichita State.
I guess, yeah, since you said Notre Dame, that sounds good.
Yep, that's correct. So Xavier McDaniel and Joe Carter went to Wichita State.
All right.
25 at 25, 100%.
Nice.
3 minutes to spare.
Wow.
All right. That's pretty good. Um, yeah, do you watch anything good this week?
I went and saw Friendship today.
Oh, yeah. How'd you like it?
It was silly. I thought the movie premise was like kind of dumb, but the movie made me laugh, so I liked it.
Yeah, it was a little darker than I think some
Right.
people were imagining.
The like existential storyline I was not really expecting, but the arc to it.
I remember so when the movie started, there was something like a couple people laughed at, and I was like, I don't know if that part was supposed to be funny. And it reminded me when I went to see Jojo Rabbit, and like the lady who was seeing it, in another row was like laughing at everything. I was like, I don't think this is a part you're supposed to be laughing at.
Is that movie
So
about like the Holocaust or something?
yeah, it's really good, but um, it was the same thing with the Tim Robinson movie. You know how it started, where I think people go into it because they're like, "Oh, Tim Robinson, I want to laugh," and then you're like, "I don't think they're going for a laugh there." Like, I
Right,
think you're jumping the gun a little bit.
right.
But yeah, I love that. Spoiler alert. Um, the fact that he lost his wife in the sewer is one of the funniest movie
Yeah,
plots I think I've ever seen.
I was not expecting that. I also was waiting for an explanation and it just never came.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was like
I hope he does another
wondering
movie.
how and why that happened, and they just never said.
Yeah, she just looks at the camera and walks away, and then
Right.
it cuts to him like in his living room
Uh
with a missing wife. And
huh. And then they're like, "Where is she? She's in the sewer."
yeah, was the theater full?
No, it was pretty empty actually. I was
They added a bunch
surprised.
of showtimes here, so I think it was doing pretty good.
It looked like half full when I was choosing my seat, but then there were not that many people there. I don't know how many people buy a movie ticket and don't go, but it seemed like some did.
Yeah, maybe they're just like real Tim Robinson freaks and want to bump up his box office so they get another movie.
I guess. I don't know.
People are weird. I wouldn't put that past some people.
People are weird. He's weird, but he's entertaining. So
Yeah. Did you see anything else?
no, but I went to the Braves game, so I'm down in Atlanta right now before I work in Alabama this coming week. So came to Atlanta early to check out the ballpark because I had never been. It was fun. Um, yeah, the area around it, the Battery is pretty cool. They block off all the streets immediately around the stadium, and they got a bunch of like bars and restaurants and shops, and there's people everywhere, and pretty cool like game day atmosphere. Weather's been beautiful. It's like 80 and sunny with no humidity. Um, so that was neat. I liked that. But on the contrary, the stadium is out in the burbs now. I'm staying in a hotel that's pretty close to there. So I'm not in Atlanta proper. I'm up north. It's like 20 minutes from downtown. It's not too far, but certainly not like walkable or anything. But oh, and the other thing I did today that's kind of baseball related on two regards is I went to the Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield, which is a mountain that you can hike up. It's a really nice path. They got a few different ways you can go, and I saw a hawk eat a squirrel. That was really cool. Like I saw it swoop down, and then I like went up the trail a little further, and I looked over, and there was this squirrel like wriggling around in its talons, and it finally stopped. So I think it was dead, and then the hawk just flew away with it. Um, but anyways, Kennesaw Mountain Landis was a commissioner of baseball, of course, and he was named that because his dad was wounded there. He was part of the Union Army from Ohio. I looked this up today. I guess that's a thing they did was like, oh, you were injured at this mountain. Let's name our kid that, which is weird, but it happened. And then the other thing I learned today, which made me laugh, it was one of the, maybe the Confederate general in charge of that battle was named Braxton Bragg. And I was like, huh, that sounds like an interesting, like familiar name. Like, what is that the name of the Orioles guy? And sure enough, I Googled it, and that was the prospect. That is his actual name. So I don't know if I should just assume he was named after a Confederate general, or maybe the family just liked the sound of it, or they didn't know, but that was kind of funny.
Yeah, either way, there's not a good answer for how the Orioles Braxton Bragg. Because if it was just a total coincidence and the family never heard of the general, that's like, how old is the kid when you're like, oh shit, what did we do?
Right. I don't know if I looked up when Braxton Bragg or where he's actually from.
I
Um,
actually looked this up today because I got scolded on Blue Sky for saying someone I knew had a funny name, comparing it to Braxton Bragg, and apparently you cannot joke about Braxton Bragg's name. It's
uh,
a very serious issue. The Orioles fans are freaking out about how they're going to handle this in 5 years when he eventually debuts for the team.
right.
Yeah, the general was from Warrenton, North Carolina, and Braxton Bragg was from like Oklahoma or something. The pitcher
Yeah.
was from Oklahoma.
Like maybe they just didn't know, but it's a funny coincidence because I saw that name in the museum in the little visitors center, and I was like, is that the same name? And I googled it, and sure enough.
The war stuff is something I never got into, but after being scolded today, I did look into the general a little bit because I was told I have to take this very seriously. And apparently the general was like known for being a shitty general. So I was like, you should be thankful this guy sucked. Otherwise, what if the Confederacy would have won? You know,
Right.
like we should be praising this guy for being a shitty general.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. Another thing I didn't really realize, but which makes sense, is that there were regiments or infantry or whatever you call them from like either side from the same state. So there was like a Kentucky fighting for the Union and the Confederates, and Missouri, same thing. So like those like border states had groups fighting each other.
This is good to know because we need to prepare for the upcoming Civil War.
It won't last that long, don't worry.
Yeah, I remembered where I saw Steve Garvey this week. We were watching the Pee Wee as himself documentary on Pee Wee Herman. It's very good, and Pee Wee Herman appeared on a game show, and Steve Garvey Steve Garvey was one of the judges on it.
Oh,
So that's where I saw Steve Garvey, and then we finished the latest season of Hacks. It's a very good show.
nice.
Where we got Mac, so we're gonna knock out a bunch of Mac shows so that I can cancel the subscription
Mm-hmm.
hopefully by the end of the month. Now we're working our way through the second season of Bookie, which stars Sebastian Maniscalco. It's a very good show. Got canceled though after its second season that just aired. Yeah, that's it.
Bookie, is that like gambling or is it something else?
Yeah, it's gambling. It's very good. He's Sebastian Maniscalco is a bookie. His friend is like his security guard or his muscle to when they need to go collect. Charlie Sheen makes regular cameos. Yeah, it's a fun show, and it's funny because like who uses bookies anymore since gambling's all legalized.
Right. Well, I mean, certain states, you can just like go on your phone, and others you can't. So maybe there's still a thing where that's not so easy.
I never use my FanDuel sportsbook account really. I used it a little bit during football season, but the other day I was bored and I put a 6-leg parlay on 3 games, and I missed one game on the over under. Otherwise, I got 5 right.
That's how they get you. Give you
Yeah.
these great odds if you get this crazy thing to happen.
So I lost $1 or 2 on that.
Damn.
So who we got this week? We got a West Coast trip.
Yeah, West Coast trip to Seattle and then Sacramento at
Ooh.
Athletics. So, yeah, not to Oakland anymore. The Orioles' first ever trip to Sacramento.
I read a really, really good article in The Athletic this week where I forget who it was. One of the writers went like almost undercover to the Sacramento games. Like they didn't use their press pass to sit up in the box. They bought a ticket and hung out
Okay.
in the stands and was talking to people. Yeah, it was very good. Basically, the um, consensus of the article was that yeah, this was a bad idea and it's kind of failing.
I saw an article. I don't think it was the same one. I saw a headline that I didn't read that was basically like the A's are fed up with the stadium, like the team itself. I don't know if that was the players or the coaches or front office or what, but um, yeah, it doesn't sound like things are going well. But also, everyone kind of saw that coming. So
Yeah, that's what I saw. The players were kind of like, yeah, this sucks.
it's also not even hot there yet. I'd imagine. I don't know the weather, but it's only early June. Give it a month or two, and then it'll really suck.
They have the same record as the Orioles.
They started
Is
out
that
pretty well, but I think the A's have been kind of garbage lately.
Yeah, so the A's are 23 and 37. The Orioles are 22 and 36. But the Athletics have lost 6 in a row and are 1 and 9 in their last 10, while the Orioles have won 3 in a row and are 6 and 4.
Well,
So basically, the Orioles are in 14th place in the American League, and they are tied with the A's. So, we got to do one team at a time here, and
this
this
is
is a
a battle
perfect
for
time.
13th place, huh?
Yeah, get past the A's, and then you're looking at the Angels, and then the Red Sox. If you can pass the Red Sox within the next 2 weeks, the way Charlie Morton's pitching, I mean, they could start
I
printing
mean,
playoff tickets.
I feel like the Red Sox are better. I'm surprised they're that bad. I know they beat Atlanta today, but when I went yesterday, they had nothing going. And Walker Buehler got shelled, and it was yeah. I don't know. I feel like they should be better
Yeah,
than they are. I know Bregman's out now, but
yeah, and Cassis and
yeah,
Devers
you're
won't
right.
play a position, which is very
Yeah,
funny.
but he's hitting. So he started out over 100 billion, and now he's like up to 300 average almost. So
Oh, do you see Santander ended up on the injured list? Mullins,
yes,
Santander, and Hayes all ended up on the injured list like on the same day.
imagine if they were all in the Orioles, it'd be like an absolute crisis right now.
All right. So, yeah, that's it for us. We'll be back next week to cover the West Coast baseball. That's going to be hard to fit in my schedule. I wish that would have been this week, actually, when I didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, well, they'll probably get swept by Seattle, so we don't have to watch those. And then maybe the A's series will be competitive. We'll see. But
That's true. The Mariners pitching and the way like, even though the Orioles won some games this week, they still didn't hit very well.
the Mariners are actually pretty decent offensively this year too, after not being able to hit the last couple of years. Cal Raleigh's leading the league in home runs right now. He's
That's
a catcher.
crazy.
So, yeah, it might not go well. The Mariners are 12th in runs scored. It's like not incredible, but certainly better than the Orioles.
23 home runs for Kyle Raleigh.
It's got more than Otani and Judge and all of them.
That's like 10 Ryan Mountcastles.
That's 11 and a half.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep. Take care. Go O's.